Hi, welcome to this episode of ESG's Women in Cybersecurity. Today, I'm so thrilled to be here with Brittany Greenfield, who's the founder and CEO of Wabbi. Brittany, so great to have you here.
Thanks so much, Melinda. It's great to be here. Real fan of the podcast. Looking forward to our conversation.
Thanks so much. And let's start with how you got into cybersecurity.
I grew up in Washington, D.C. So for me, cybersecurity was always a little bit of a black box, the 3-letter agencies versus Russia, China, and probably some angsty teenager I dated. And I didn't get into cyber until I was working for Cisco, looking a lot at IoT. And as we all know on this show, you can't talk IoT and not talk cyber. And I realized cyber is just such a fundamental piece of the digital fabric that powers our lives today that I needed to get into it. I became very passionate about it. Got into the endpoint space, looking at go-to-market strategy. And then I actually got very frustrated with the fact that we were so focused on perimeter security, which to me is tantamount to saying, hey, I have a home security system, but I wasn't bothering to ask the question of whether or not my front door was shut, or did I have the right kind of lock on it? That's what led me into the realm of application security and eventually to found Wabbi.
And you went to Duke for undergrad. What did you study and how do you use that? And then you can also be great to hear about you getting your MBA.
Duke actually has an amazing program called Program 2, which is a self-designed interdisciplinary major they put out for applications and accept a small percent of those that do. And, that allowed me to have a really great journey early in my career, which eventually led me to my MBA at MIT Sloan, which was that was the time that I got into cybersecurity.
When did you first think about being a CEO and leading a company?
I think, to be frank among friends, right? I think I always was thinking about that. I don't write code. I learned early that I lacked the art to write code. Sure, I could do it, but also I can finger paint. Doesn't mean I'm going to be a painter, right? But I'm a technical person. And through my career path, I found how I could leverage both pieces of being technical, but also being strategic. That had allowed me to develop a career where I identified market problems and came up with solutions and built the teams to go execute on that.
What makes women great leaders? And, why would we like to see more women in those leadership roles?
I think there are a couple of things that make women great leaders. One is I think we're a little bit pragmatic, right? I look at this, especially from a startup perspective, and I'll say, honestly, I was actually coached at the beginning of this. People said, you got to stop focusing on the details and the pragmatism of your business because you're a good leader. You're going to build a good business plan. They know that. You got to sell the big picture. I think the other thing, and I think this is going to play a huge role as we look at the future of work as well, is we're empathetic. Not that men aren't, right? These are things that men have too, but I think these are some really defining characteristics. It's estimated that about 90% of women are experienced to have some kind of trauma, whether it's harassment, physical or verbal abuse. And so having a woman in a leadership position conveys an unspoken de facto empathy and understanding and makes it easier for people to bring themselves to work, to share what's going on outside.
Great. And let's talk about Wabbi. And what are your priorities? What are you working on at Wabbi?
Let me level set though. So the area we focused on is how to integrate security into development. A lot of the security industry focused so much on trying to speed up the tools to fit in. And what Wabbi said was, it's not about speed, it's about efficiency. How do we make sure we're doing the right thing at the right time? So we orchestrate the process and program of application security to make sure the right information populates into the development team at the right time. And now our priorities are about more forward-looking. How do I predict the impact of application security on my development pipeline? How can I more effectively empower my development teams so that my security teams can get away from the tactical day-to-day management of it to how do I strategize? Something we'll be rolling out later this year is, did a change happen in the application that's going to impact my policies?
What other advice would you have for other women CEOs or aspiring CEOs?
I do think one of the things that's been most helpful is building that network. And you don't have to think about it quite so formally. I think some people go out and say, Melinda, will you be my mentor? And that's not how the best mentors come up. I like to think of them as a personal board of advisors. Remember, nobody's doing a favor in expectation of something being returned, right? And I think that was one of the things that took me a little later in my career as I was helping the next generation come up. I realized like I wasn't expecting anything from them. They asked for 30 minutes of my time. And of course, because somebody had done it for me before. So reach out, right? Those are the people that you'll go to when you have those questions, when you have those opportunities.
Yep. So thanks, Brittany, so much for being on our show. It was great talking with you. For those watching, make sure that you download the full podcast because there's a lot more great content that we shared and got to talk about. And make sure that you sign up to follow and join the community.